Go
Okay.
for it. All right, so I think we're live. We just give everyone a couple seconds to dial in. In case you are watching live on LinkedIn, this is okay. But please be aware that if you have any questions, it would be great if you just jump over to the Vimeo so that we have the chance to really answer your questions in case you have any. That would be wonderful. Great. Good. For now, I think we just wait a little, right? And let the people join in. Also, it's a very German thing to always start on point. How's it with you, Julia? Do you usually always start on point a little bit before, or how's that going?
I wish, but I also sometimes get into situations where I am late, so it learns patience, and I have been hosting many virtual events myself. So usually, we give 3 minutes time for everyone to arrive. And yes, I encourage everyone to get themselves a drink, maybe to stretch, to make sure that they can a little bit get into the feeling.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. Although we're already 2 minutes in, and I think the people can also, let us know from where you're dialing in. That would be wonderful to know. And also, if you have already some questions, you can also let us know on the chat. And we will try our best to really incorporate them. And I hope Julia is able to answer a lot of the questions you have, but also I have, because I'm very interested in that topic. And wonderful. So there we have one from Berlin. Welcome. Julia and I are also, Julia is really in Berlin. I'm a little bit north of Berlin, but I'm in the outer skirts. So still, I call myself part of Berlin. Okay, cool. So I think we're just going to start. So I am Julia, the other Julia, Julia Kunlavong, and I have founded Unwind Your Mind. And Unwind Your Mind is here to create a space where we are actually trying to push everyone into the direction to create the future of. Hello from Cologne. Hi, Ina. To create the future of work. We have decided that with Unwind Your Mind, we want to educate everyone on the topic of stress. We want everyone to understand that yoga and meditation are not the only tools you should use in order to reduce stress, but also that it's important to really shed some light on processes, structures, and how you work, for example, or how you build relationships, to understand that stress is so multifaceted. It's nothing that you just have there, and everyone is really an individual person. So that also means everyone needs an individual structure or process or method to really cope better with stress, to reduce stress, and to have a healthier and happier life, maybe also. And this is why we have created Unwind Your Mind. And I love to always invite guests to our deep talks, because those talks are here to really, show everyone that there is also other topics that we should focus on to understand how this all works and how stress can impact our lives, but also how it can make it maybe a little better, like in terms of pressure or something. So, I have met Julia on her Deep Talk, because she is hosting Deep Talks, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about that. But when we talked for the very first time, I was so excited, and I felt like the topics that she is into are really so interesting, because there are so many people out there who are really struggling with creating a company culture and relationships, and how this all is connected is something that she's going to talk to us herself. Julia, welcome. Maybe you want to say a few words.
Yeah, Julia, thank you very much for inviting me and having me. First, I just love how you presented your format, and I love the name Unwind Your Mind and the idea of helping all of us to be mindful that we are probably all under stress, and this is something to acknowledge and um, to kind of like learn how to deal with it in the best way. And I am on my little side also building a community which helps to tackle stress in some way, because yeah, Deep Talks, basically in a nutshell, it is a community. I co-founded it in 2018, and it creates spaces for people in person and online to connect over meaningful topics through curated small group conversations. And I have been doing it mainly in Berlin as curated invite only salons. And it has been a great success when you enter a room full of strangers, and after that, you leave so fulfilled and maybe even with a friend or two. And now, as some time has passed by, I realize that not only strangers and we as individuals need this human connection, but also we as professionals, as people who work in teams, in companies, that we spend so much time at work, and we know how much is at stake, and it depends on how great we feel and the way how happy we are in our work environment, how supported we are, is a big chunk of it. So it made me realize, wow, work space also need deep talk. So that's why this is where I'm starting now to expand this concept of bringing it, yes, to companies. So thank you for having me here. And that is why it's also like, given that um, desire for deep human connection is one of our most basic human needs. Everyone needs it. Given it is fulfilled, it also helps us to reduce stress. So I feel there is a very good baseline bridge for us to build this conversation.
Yes, so thank you for this introduction. I want to address the elephant in the room, or like the most pressing question, probably. So, how do we create relationships? How do we create meaningful relationships? Is there one answer, one framework you can share with us?
Well, I would say if there is just one word answer to create relationships, you need to communicate. And as Bernard Shaw said, the single biggest problem with communication is an illusion that it takes place. And if we just like reflect on all our lives with the flood of emails, Slack notifications, LinkedIn, WhatsApps, we are drowning in communication, but we are actually starving for real connection because everything is fast paced and we barely have time to keep up with all our tasks, rarely having possibility to check in with ourselves and actually share on a meaningful level with others how we feel, what is going on, how shall we continue. So that is why I feel that the way to building meaningful relationships everywhere, if it is private or at workspace, is to create these possibilities to slow down and really connect with each other beyond work talk and beyond small talk. And at workspace, it is kind of requires special focus because, of course, no one is paying you money so that you drink your tea 5 hours and have conversations with everyone. You come to get your targets met, OKRs, KPRs, all the profit targets. So that's why this idea of building relationships is in many companies somewhere in the backside. And we need to make sure that this perception changes and that company culture, which embraces togetherness and open communication, will become at the front line because basically this is an angel which will allow to build a sustainable, thriving company.
Well, thank you. There were so many things already. What would you say though? Like, imagine you're you're reading the title and you're like, okay, so but where do I start? Like, in order to really build a relationship up from the ground, what would be your recommendation? What's the first step to take?
Well, the first step is most probably is just acknowledging your present situation and see where you and your company, your team is standing right now. There are some organizations where uh, it is ingrained in the company culture from very, very beginning, especially when teams are small. People used to hang out a lot, so the communication can be very, very easy. Everyone feels okay. We talk to each other. We are on the same in the same boat, on the same page. But then it may be a different situation, or especially if suddenly there is some big growth, or suddenly the whole team is remote, where you do not have those opportunities to come together and build and nurture this sense of togetherness. Then you need to figure out, talk to people, figure out how they feel, what would they like to do, and then suggest your own ways to create this team building formats.
Yeah, interesting. And I would like to dive a little deeper on this because, from my experience, it's always, like people like you and me, and I don't want to, put people into boxes and be like, okay, like we're different or whatever. But I think, like both of us, we are really diving deep into this topic, like for a very long time now. We're trying to reflect on what are first steps or like second steps to take. And um, I think it's really easier said than done when we recommend to the people, well, you just need to talk to your people. I always have the feeling that there is like still a barrier in front of them that prevents them from, going that step, taking that step, and really reaching out to their people. Why do you think that is?
Yes, I absolutely agree that it is likely people do not know how to approach such a thing. And usually you just, I don't know, bring beers, bring pizza, and people laugh, people talk, and everyone has a good time, genuinely has a good time. The question is that maybe the next day when you come to work, still every thing which you had behind the surface stays there. Some conflict, some feeling overwhelmed, some feelings that you cannot express certain truths. So basically, such kind of easygoing events, they do not really like help to do more than deliver this 2 hours of fun. And at the same time, uh, deeper conversations, you and I'm not prepared for it. It is maybe a lot of mental work. In my own description of what I'm doing, I'm using this word authenticity a lot. And I feel some people, especially men, they say, oh, it's too serious. I don't think that people will spend money on authenticity. And I would dare to challenge them. But the point is, I'm coming from a place of experience. So when I read all those reports, which really say that it is like already proven by surveys of global organizations that fostering this culture of belonging is related to more than 50% engagement rate, 75% drop of sick days, 50% drop of possibilities that people will switch companies. So this is all like theory. And I come from a place where I have been creating these events, and I see how happy people get when they have this opportunity to suddenly share what they think. They feel seen, they feel heard, they feel validated. And this is just our basic human need. And at work, usually you just talk about your work roles, then you have additional work dynamics, the power dynamics, the hierarchies. You rarely have a chance to meet on this human to human level, where in reality, such possibility of talking to each other and even expressing some challenging truth, it can actually glue the company together and to even allow a possibility to figure out there is something wrong, and then together find ways to work on it. Because if something is unsaid, it is cannot be addressed because no one knows that something needs addressing. So that is why I feel people just do not know how to do it. They have this perception it is difficult. So that is why I am here to help HR leaders, people's leaders to experience such format and hopefully to start bringing it more and more in their companies. That is why actually when I have started now a series especially for HR leaders, where the part of this whole workshop is actually taking part in this like interactive group game, so that once they have experienced it themselves, they will know how they feel. It will not be only me telling some numbers and data, it will be them feeling. And if they feel it the way how we feel it, they will say, wow, I enjoyed so much. I trust I will also bring it to my company and let us all bond over this great feeling of sharing something, of seeing us beyond all this like work titles.
Yeah, thank you. Christina, I saw your comment that you should also be aware of, culture issues. Maybe you want to elaborate on this, what you mean by that. If you mean like culture-wise from, different countries, or if you were referring to someone or something else. Because I think besides the culture issue in general, there's also, to me, it's all the right things you said, but I think it goes even deeper. I think people are aware of the fact that they would need to talk to people, but just they don't know how. Like it's for them is like, yeah, I have seen the studies myself, I've seen the research, but what they lack is actually creating a relationship of trust and psychological safety. And those words sometimes feel so, I don't know, they seem so big, right? But I think they are the fundamentals of when you talk about creating relationships. What's your take on that, Julia?
Yes, well, for certain things, you need to create space. So you just do not start some serious, very deep personal conversation while you are just waiting to get your copy out of the copying machine. So I really sometimes compare this format which I'm bringing in a little bit to maybe your experience with yoga or with the gong meditation, so that when you come to this place, you leave all your like working clothes behind, you put your phone on mute, you just come and you're fully present, and then you're taken on this journey of mindfulness, slowing down, and connection. And deep talks, they create this sense of connection not only to your inner truth, because this format invites you to share some personal things and reflect on your own experiences, but also listen and share this truth with others. And as you say, it requires an environment of trust, because we all can talk about our successes, it's all easy. But if you want to go a little bit vulnerable, this is outside of your comfort zone. And the only way how you can do it, it is when you will know that your truth, you will not be punished for this. And that is why, like, yes, you need to create this, but it is also not a rocket science, and it is easy to create. And I am there to actually teach it to as many people as possible. Everyone who is open to hear it, I'm there to show you how you can do it.
So, what would be your first take on, like, let's imagine there is a company and they have been now like made aware, maybe through statistics or research or whatever, they say that there is maybe a higher retention rate or whatnot, and they now decided, okay, yeah, I want to start, working on like creating relationships, but maybe also invest into creating a certain company culture. And let's take also Christina into consideration. She said, there is a difference between East and West culture in general. So, what would be your take on this? Like, what would you say would be the first step that everyone should do before, even before working with someone else? Like, really. maybe there is something they can do straight away?
Well, as I can imagine this all questions start with the leadership team. And then it is a question, how would they like to approach it? Would they like to just discuss in their own small group the concept and values, or they can engage all of their team and take them on, I don't know, 1 day workshop where they will invite everyone to be a part of consideration and develop company values which are really specific to their own field of work, to their team, to the everything what is about them, to make it like really, really tailored and individual. And creating, yes, this basically consistent, very good communication loops and the culture which will welcome feedback, which will encourage sharing, learning, which will give opportunity for people to express themselves and to grow, to learn. And obviously, it all starts with the readiness of the leadership team. When they embrace this growth mindset, then it will be much easier to bring it to the whole organization rather than the other way around. And then you really think, okay, how are we communicating right now? Are there regular meetings between the team and the managers? Do we have team buildings? What team buildings do we have? Because as I already mentioned, they may not be all of the same quality in terms of creating meaningful connections, and you do not need maybe deep conversations every time. Sometimes it's fun to go climbing, bicycle riding, paddle boarding, but you need just to make sure that there is this possibility to express inner truth so that there will not be this hidden conflicts and frustration building up, because this is basically the way where people can start to shut down. So yeah, first step is to review where you are right now, where would you like to go, and how to make it happen, and ideally make your team the part of the process of creating it and not just like throw it down on them because maybe they have a little bit other perspectives. And it is especially valuable if you have a team which has been on board for a while. And sometimes we all believe, oh, we know everyone, we know how everyone is feeling and how they are doing, but actually, you might be surprised if you really ask them a few questions.
I love that, because it's in the end what you're saying is, yes, of course, everyone can start like right now. You just need to do something. You just need to go out there and ask and start involving the people that are basically part of the company or the group in general, because yes, everyone can do it. You don't need a certain certification or I don't know what people are waiting for. Yeah, you can simply start. And you said a very important thing at the end is like, ask. I wonder, are there any questions you would always recommend people to ask?
Well, yeah, there are those like questions, open question, closed questions, all kinds of like theoretical questions. But to be honest, I feel the most important question is the follow-up question. Whatever you are have asking, listen to what response you have been given and then dig one step deeper, or maybe two, because this is where you actually may unlock the most interesting information, and you may unlock this like potential for proper connection and getting your conversation to this level, from the shallowness, politeness, basicness, to the one where you can start building more meaningful relationships. So this is just like on average. Do not forget to ask follow-up questions and also listen fully. So much we are so already used to network on autopilot with our two questions: where do you come from, what do you do, and then you turn around, you actually do not really process. So listening fully, listening to hear what your other person is telling you, and not just in the whole time thinking what I'm going to answer next. This is also one of the most important keys to creating better conversations and hence better relationships.
Yeah, I think that active listening is definitely something people should take a course in, or I don't know, like whenever they, answer just to react, to get it done, is like, there should be a red lamp somewhere, like lightening up, be like, is that really what you want? Like hint, hint, hint. Like maybe you should really not try to solve something, but listen and see what is unfolding. Um, so, because we only have a couple more minutes left, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat and let us know. I'm happy to ask those to Julia, and of course, you can always reach out to us, especially now to Julia. Julia, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on what it is like you're doing in general, like what your offering is, and how people can reach you?
Yes, of course. So right now, basically, I'm trying to bring this beauty of guided small group conversations from my Berlin community, which basically is about inviting exciting people of Berlin through my network and network of networks to come together and discuss some interesting topics. Now I would like to bring them into work teams. So for any organization which has more than 10 people, if you are thinking how you can boost your engagement, I can be of help online and offline, because this format works great thanks to all the modern technological advancements, Google Hangouts and Zoom. So it is very easy to do it virtually, especially important for remote teams. It really like has the same benefit of creating human connections. So I am happy to tell you how I do it. I'm also happy to facilitate it for your teams myself. But in principle, really, I feel that deep talks, it is something like fire. No one should have like any like monopoly on it. It is beautiful. It is intrinsic, and everyone should know how to do it on their own. It is like a recipe of your favorite cocktail. Of course, you can do it at home, but sometimes you just go to your favorite bar because this is, this is how you want to enjoy it. So I can hold space for you, and I'm happy to teach everyone. So if there is any CEO, HR leader, people's leader listening and who is curious, you're welcome to reach out to me and we can discuss. The beauty of this format, it is very universal. It can support your company at any stage. If you want just to do some nice event, for example, Christmas party, or if your company is growing, you have all these new people where you want them to get to know each other better, or maybe you are in some challenging moment and you have to let people go and all others are very, very much unsure about everything. So you can use this format and think what would you like to talk about and how to make it in a way that it will actually bring the best of the conversation and bring people together. So I'm very happy to advise you on this, because it is power, and this is a beautiful power which we all have in ourselves. It is available for free, and you do not need any intermediary on this path.
Thank you. I just want to summarize, in general, for like what you've been saying or what we've been learning, basically. So, what my takeaways are is like, the first thing is to just start, like, to really dive right in, like, start a conversation with the people that are involved, and try to really start somewhere. Don't wait for anyone to invite you to something, or I don't know, maybe to like for some research to show up that your stress levels are too high or whatever. Just start. And then the second thing is like when you start asking those questions and trying to bring people together is really listen, but listen carefully, listen in an active way. Try not to listen to react, but listen to respond in the end. And like this response can look very different to one another. And what we haven't been really pointing out so far, but I think it's very important to also like add on, is like everyone should be humble and curious at the same time. I think if we really try to be curious to learn something, that will broaden our horizon, right? Like we then will be able to really see what other people are thinking and what is on their minds. And then also, if we are a little humble, and this is maybe also the question that Christina has been raising, is like, you know, we need to take into consideration that everyone has a ton of other topics that are on our shoulders, and we need to take that into consideration. So it's, of course, like everyone else has, you know, feelings and emotions and a private life and also other things that are going on. There is a ton of crises currently going on in the world. So I think this is something we need to take into consideration. We're in the end all human beings and not human doings, and we're also not any machines, but we are all like trying to deal with this. But the most important thing, and I hope that everyone can take that away for him or her, is that start to create those conversations and try to create those relationships. And if you need any support, then just please reach out to Julia. Thank you all for joining. And yes, everyone can reach out to us, and then see you soon
Yes,
again.
and maybe just if we have one more minute, just if anyone who is working in your team, you have your next team meeting. So just before you start, just ask them one question. For example, that everyone will just split into 2 people group or 3 or 4 people group, depending how big is your meeting, and let them just exchange with other people. Simple question like, how is your private life persona different from your work persona? Give them 5 minutes, and it will probably take you 10 to make them stop talking. This will help you to understand what it is all about.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Yes.